This is the Budget Minded Traveler Podcast, episode 23.
Welcome to the Budget Minded Traveler Podcast, your source for the tips and tactics that will inspire and equip you to travel the world. And the best part, it won't break your bank. And now, the Budget Minded Traveler herself and your host, Jackie IRL.
We're so grateful to Osprey Packs for partnering with us and supporting the podcast, so please stay tuned for more about them later on. I have an opportunity for you to join me in real life for some real travel. Here's the latest Jump Adventures update. We are going to Greece for a bike and boat island hopping adventure this May 9th to 16th, 2025, and we still have space left. Check out jumpadventures.com to learn more and book now. We're going to have a yacht all to ourselves with ensuite cabins on board, so you get to sleep in the same bed every night as we start in Athens and make our way west toward the island of Corfu. You'll have your own bike for the week, e-bike if you want one, for cycling the islands as we go, in between meals crafted by our private chef on board, and all the relaxing you want to do on the top deck under the Mediterranean sun. These bike and boat adventures are our most carefree and relaxed trips. All you have to do is say yes and show up, and there's still space. Head over to jumpadventures.com to grab your spot now, and we'll see you there. Hey guys, welcome to the Budget Minded Traveler Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to episode 23 today, wherever you are, whether you be working or maybe at the gym or on a walk or whatever it is that you're doing. Thanks for spending this time with me. I have a super cool interview for you today. I was really excited when I did it because I was so interested in the subject. It's something that I just know nothing about. And if you happen to like bikes, then you're in the right place. My guest interviewees today are Bany and Tenille Smith. They are a couple living in the Tahoe area in California. And this spring, about 6 months ago, they actually took a trip to Europe with their bikes and did a tour through Spain and Portugal and France and ended up in Switzerland on a 6-week tour just biking. And Adam has actually done this before. About 5 years ago, he went on a solo trip 3 months through Europe on his bike. And so they are going to shed some light on that subject for us today. They have tons of good stuff to share about packing lists, the gear that you need with specific recommendations, different things that happen to them on the road and how they deal with it, and advice for people thinking about doing something like this. So it's definitely going to be especially great if you are thinking about possibly doing a bike tour yourself. And even if you aren't, you may be after this episode, kind of like I am. I mean, I haven't really considered traveling by bike, but it sounds like so much fun. So you're going to get a glimpse into that today. So let's go ahead and get into the interview with Adam and Tenille. All right, I've got Adam, Bany, and Tenille Smith on the line, and these guys went on a bike tour trip through Europe, like I said, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about this. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Awesome.
And we're doing well.
You guys have done something that I think is on a lot of people's bucket lists, and not the majority, I would say, of people who want to travel, which makes what you did really, I think, super fascinating. Like for me, riding a bike through Europe has never really been on my list, but then I look at your pictures and I'm like, my goodness, like you guys got to see things that you just don't see when you're in, trains and buses, and you get to pull over on the side of the road to look at the sheep and like whatever it is, and so it's such a unique way to travel, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So first of all, what was the structure of the trip? Where did you go from and to, and how long was it? Like those kind of logistical details.
Okay. Well, we started, we tried to plan as much as we could, and we planned mostly on where we wanted to land by weather. That's probably the biggest thing that you want to, if somebody else is to do this, that's the biggest thing they want to keep in mind is weather. And we'll talk about that more probably because weather's the biggest factor.
Yeah.
When you're out there in the elements, you're on the road. I mean,
you're not in the protection of a car. So.
Yeah, you don't carry too much as you can. And So we started in southern Spain in Malaga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so we didn't decide. We sort of made a rough itinerary. We knew we were going to fly into Malaga, Spain, and start there, and we knew we were going to fly out of Geneva, Switzerland. And so essentially, we had 6 weeks to sort of get from Malaga to Switzerland. And we wanted to go through Portugal, and we had picked out some places in southern Spain we wanted to see. We wanted to see the Pyrenees and hopefully a little bit of France. And that was kind of about as much as we had planned before we landed. And then we just sort of decided we would buy maps along the way. We bought the first map before we left. And
So I think we started with one book and one map, kind of. And total trip was 6 weeks.
Yep.
Little over 6 weeks on the bike.
Okay.
Started on the coast and worked our way up, and 6 weeks, 2 rental cars, 1 rental car.
2 rental cars.
2 rental cars for probably a total of 3 days? 3 days of cars, just to get. We had to get them because we were running low on time. We didn't plan the trip well enough as far as time goes.
We grossly overestimated how much we would be able to ride every day, or how far we'd want to ride.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So,
and what time of year was it?
when did we?
So we landed.
It was late March, March 27th, maybe 28th. We landed in Malaga, Spain, March 28th.
And it was kind of like late spring, which for southern Spain was supposed to be perfect weather.
And it was beautiful. We had a little bit of rain,
but it was just
it was
warm but not hot, and like the rainy season was kind of over. So and it wasn't quite summer tourist season in most of the places we were yet. So that was nice also. Yeah,
and that was good and bad. I mean, at some respect, it was so quiet. It was nice to cycle, but the weekends were just dead. I mean, we so we started too early a little bit, but.
So did you guys bring a tent? Like, was your plan to kind of camp along the way, or was it? Were you going to try and find hostels and stuff? What was your plan there?
I'll let Tenille can speak on that.
We planned to camp the whole time, and we sort of, me being the sissy one of the two, knew that we'd be getting some hotels if we had really bad weather. So, we sort of planned to camp as much as we could, and said, we'd get hotels if we were really tired, or hostels if we, depending on where we were. So we actually did some research, and we found a really amazing tent at an REI garage sale, actually. It's a big Agnes copper spur, and this tent is one of their like ultra lightweight 2-person tents. And of course, it had some holes in it, but we sent it back to them and got it fixed for like $10. So it ended up being an awesome find, and is now like our favorite lightweight tent. So
worked well. So we had a tent. I think total, how many nights in hotels? What do you think we had?
Probably
4, 5.
Probably like 6.
Probably 5 or 6 nights. 6 nights of hotels
or hostels, kind of a combo.
Yeah, we did whatever. Mostly hotels though, and they were decent. We stayed in Sevilla. We walked. That was a fun city. It's probably our funnest city. I think we like Sevilla the best, but
sometimes we like to kind of stay in the smaller towns. Actually, riding a bike in a big city is a lot more difficult than riding it in the country in a small town.
Yeah,
as far as
kidding.
Safety,
yeah. So if anybody does this in the
don't forget that.
Going in and out of the big cities is just it's so hectic, and you don't know what's going on. You're looking for streets and kind of have to move with traffic, and
it can be very tricky.
And with 2 people, you worry about the other person. So big cities, kind of avoid them if you can.
Yeah. How did you decide to do this trip? Just going back a little bit.
Well, going back to what you said earlier, I'm amazing, and I've already done one other one. So Tenille knew I was amazing and wanted to come on a bike ride.
I did say that, Adam, but it was offline. So now you can proclaim it to everybody. That's okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's perfect.
Something like that.
So that's what I was, when you said it, I looked over at Tenille, I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you had done this before. So tell us about that.
Back in 2009, I was working, and that's kind of when the economy, as far as construction management type stuff, went down, in California. So I started working for a carpenter in town, making kind of meager wages, not meager, but just, and I had money saved up, and so I wanted to do something. So I kept saving for a little bit, worked some more hours, and told my dad, actually, at a coffee shop, I told him, Dad, I think I'm going to ride my bike across the nation. He looks at me and goes, okay. And I said, okay. And he said, what kind of bike are you going to ride? And I tell him what kind of bike I'm thinking about building up. And he says, okay. And then he says, well, why don't you just go to Europe? And I said, that's a heck of an idea.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
So I started thinking about it. I said, well, I know a friend from high school who lives over there, who married a guy that's in the Air Force. I could call her. So I get in contact with my friend, and she lives in Kaiserslautern, Germany, and it's by the Ramstein Air Base. So it's a big air base in Germany. Mm-hmm. So a lot of Americans live out there. Long story short, built up a bike, put it together on the internet, knew what I kind of wanted to build, and then that was about it. I found a really cheap ticket to Frankfurt, round trip for $570.
Yeah, those were the days, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. So round trip from San Francisco to Frankfurt, $570. So I was like, oh, this is perfect.
But that trip was a lot longer, right? Or was it?
Yeah, it was. That was about 3.5 months.
Oh yeah, okay. And you covered a lot more ground, right?
I did a total of 14 countries and 7,860 kilometers.
Wow. That's so many.
So, and I was by myself. It was a cool trip. Like, it's crazy. I've always enjoyed riding bikes, so it was no big deal. It was a little crazy. I started in the rain my first day, and I didn't know what was going on. And there was all these like souped up VWs ripping on these backcountry roads in the rain right next to me. And so that was a little scary. But if you like riding bikes, you're just cruising, and everything's so new that it was just, it just went by. It was, towards the end, it got a little too long, like by myself, Mm-hmm. Tenille and I would love to do a longer trip, I think, and have more money, so you don't have to always rough it and eat cheap food and think about. But that's part of traveling when you don't have the funds. So
Right. So was it basically because you had done this trip and then you wanted Tenille to go with you? I mean, is that how you guys just decided to kind of do it again?
No, Tenille's a pretty good bicycle rider. She's actually really good, rides mountain bikes and stuff. So, we rode together, and that's kind of how we first started hanging out, was riding our bikes. And
I think it was because I was finishing. Yeah, I was in my last year of school, and I sort of had a nice schedule where I had this big chunk of time off, and I wanted to go abroad somewhere and do something fun and spend as much time as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And Tenille and I were falling in love, and it was like,
so I persuaded him to take off work for 6 weeks and
it was at a point that we're going to either do this now or we're not going to have this chunk of time for years. So
that's
and it was
so
good
awesome.
because I felt like he had this experience, like he was comfortable, like knowing what to do, and I was, ambitious enough to try to put it all together. And so we used airline miles to get our plane tickets, and once we got our tickets in February or in January, it was kind of a done deal. So
so we got our tickets, we started rushing to get our bikes built. That was kind of chaotic. Yeah. Like every night we'd be working on somebody's bike, making sure it was all dialed, and so
what goes into that kind of prep?
Well, you have a decent amount of gear. Here, I'll let T.
So I didn't have a bike to start with, like a touring bike. Road bikes and mountain bikes, yes, but not an actual like touring bike. And so it took me a lot of research online, just kind of figuring out what kind of bikes people ride, like what matters when you're looking for a touring bike as far as comfort and durability, and like the things that you don't think about just on your mountain bikes and that kind of stuff. So I had to do quite a bit of research and try to figure out what worked. And for women, especially someone my size that's like 5'5", there's not tons of options for women specific touring bikes. So I did a lot of searching and looking on eBay and Craigslist, and I finally found a bike in Canada that was a Cannondale touring bike that they don't make anymore. It's from 2006, but was kind of just what I wanted: heavy duty, solid rims, and had racks and stuff like that. So we ordered that, and
but it wasn't we decided. So I guess the basic description of our bikes would be like almost road bikes with wide tires, cantilever, like a cross bike kind of style bike with drop bars, not straight bars. So we were more in like the road bike. We wanted efficient bikes over anything.
We knew we were going to be riding mostly pavement.
Yeah, the first time I went, I didn't have any fenders. I built up a cross bike, but this time we had dual fenders both. which I'm on the fence. If you really need the fenders, you're going to get wet if it's wet. The fenders are nice. Fan. She likes them. I mean, they're nice, but if you ride into town and stuff from your campsite or whatever, and you want to wear jeans and then the road's wet, you don't have to worry about it. So they're nice, but I think I don't know, whatever.
It's kind of fun. I mean, that was one thing I enjoyed about the trip was like getting the bike together and picking out bags and trying to find, good deals for stuff on Craigslist or on certain websites and sort of just like getting the gear together. I think was kind of fun for both of us. We're both kind of like gear nerds. So it was for us to like go through and like pick out what we wanted to bring and try to find the lightest stuff we could.
Right. What were some of those things? Like, how did you pack? How do you pack for this kind of trip? Because I mean, you've got like 2 bags two small kind of like your bags on the rack on your bike on the back and then on the front. Is that right?
Yeah, we had 4
can't fit a whole lot.
Each. You can actually fit quite a bit. The bags are quite large that we had. Adam's were smaller than mine, but being a woman, I had to have a few extra items, so that was okay. But
that was crazy. That was probably one of the crazier things for me to see is all the stuff, all the like. Tenille's bag of cosmetics and stuff. Just because women have more stuff,
Ziploc bag, like a tiny Ziploc bag. He's like, "Why are you bringing that?"
And like, the guy version is maybe like a small stick of deodorant if you want.
Which I required him to bring, otherwise he would not have brought.
If you don't really need, and a toothbrush and toothpaste, and that's about it.
Yeah. So anyways, but you have to be like, we like picking out light stuff. Like I actually wanted to buy a new sleeping bag anyway, so I got like a really nice, super compressible down Mountain Hardwear sleeping bag that essentially squeezed down to about the size of an Nalgene bottle. And I also got like a new sleeping pad that was also about the same size as an Nalgene bottle. So if you like think about like the things that are usually the biggest when you go backpacking, like your tent, your sleeping bag, and your sleeping pad are usually the things that end up taking up the most space. So if you can kind of get small versions of that, you really gain a lot. And with our tent, the tent that we got, and
our tent was pretty. It was small, so it fit on top of the rack. I think I carried the tent most of the time. And then we split the food. We just did the canisters of gas and like one of the small burners, like a Whisper Light, or we had a Snow Peak. Yeah, we had a Snow Peak, which was awesome. Has a little button for the ignition, so that was nice, not having to always light it with a lighter. And
did you just outfit yourself from REI?
Well,
we actually had most of the stuff. We wanted to get another tent, which was kind of ridiculous. We already had like 50 tents, but we're like, we have to get a super lightweight, compact one.
Yeah, and we found such a good deal. It was like a $400 tent. We found it for $80 at REI, $89, $90, and it had one rip in it and a broken pole. So I sent it back to Big Agnes, and they charged me $10, and they fixed like half of the poles and fix a hole in it like super good. So
yeah, nice deal.
It was awesome, and it worked perfectly for the whole trip. Yeah. It was
so you just brought the tiny little camp stove to be able to cook when you were camping.
We had a little titanium pot.
A titanium pot and two mugs.
Yeah, 2 mugs. And what else did we bring? We brought. We had like one change of clothes that was like nice for the town, and then a couple changes. The thing that actually one of the harder things for me was I get cold really easily, and so knowing that we were going to go into the Pyrenees and we were going to kind of go from southern Spain where it was like warm beach summer weather up into the mountains where there could be rain and snow, as it turns out. I kind of had to pack a lot of stuff because you want to have layers that you can peel off and have a bunch of different biking shorts for the different biking temperatures. So it's nice to have leggings and stuff that's like you can layer and take on and off. So trying to figure out all that so you have like you can make the right warmth for every sort of temperature that you're cycling in is kind of important. So that was fun. But we did pretty good. And I think actually we ended up being surprised that like the heaviest thing that we normally carried was like our food. And we bought a lot of wine along the way. And so that also was pretty heavy to pack along.
Nice. So. Worth it though.
Yes.
Yeah, we won't complain about that.
Yeah. And so was there anything that you brought that was kind of a fail that you didn't need in the end?
That's a good question. We asked ourselves that question. Like, what could we not have lived with? And
there wasn't that many things. The only thing I would say is like we brought this one little lantern, this little paper lantern that converts like a headlamp into a lantern you can hang in your tent. and it's super tiny, weighs nothing, but we never really used that.
See, I think that was invaluable because I bought that and I loved it. I thought it was
he
super.
Loves it. Yeah.
I thought it was
but we
super
didn't actually
cool.
use it that much. It is cool, but we just didn't use that much.
Yeah, but I mean,
there wasn't like big stuff that we brought that we didn't want.
Clothing wise, I think we packed.
We packed pretty well. We used everything that we.
I brought one pair of jeans. It's definitely nice to have a down jacket just because no matter what, you're going to hit a cold night unless you go someplace warm.
Yeah.
But so we both had nice down jackets, like mid-weight, kind of light mid-weight jackets.
And those are packable, so that's
they're kind of super small.
That's the biggest thing is everything should be packable.
Yep.
Waterproof. Actually, this is big to mention. Tenille had really nice waterproof bags in front and back, and I had them only in the front. But I did have rain covers for the back. But if you can afford it to buy really nice waterproof bags, they're nice.
They're so
if you know you're going to hit weather. But if you're not going to hit weather and you're just going to go for maybe one trip, the cost difference of just buying some kind of okay bags, is probably will get you through. Don't feel like you need to spend. Don't buy junk, but don't buy $150, $200 bags. You can get away with $50, $60 bags. And that's for a set. So $50, $60 for a set. And then so that's 2 sets. So $150 on bags. Yeah. You could put a bike together for $600, $700.
I think mine ended up costing about $800 total with all the stuff I did. And I bought like new tires for it and the fenders and
so
just some basic stuff to tune it up.
$1,000 if we're talk about money, I guess $1,000 each for the bike with all the gear and extra clothing you might need if you don't have it, and then we spend about $1,600 to $1,500 to $2,000 each.
Yep, on the trip.
Yeah, and we spent about $1,500 to $2,000 each on the trip.
Okay.
So what is that? $2,500, $5,000 for both of us. Yeah. Without the plane tickets, but that was 6 weeks of traveling for $2,500 each.
Right, and you got your tickets with miles. You said, right?
Yeah, and we lived really. I mean, we had some bad weather. We hit snow. We tried to go over some mountain passes and we hit snow, and we were like in some pretty nasty weather. Actually, it was like still winter.
So I think we ended up having to spend more money on hotels and hostels than we really anticipated.
Yeah, because they were expensive.
And the rental car too. We didn't anticipate needing that, but
that was a big chunk of money.
Yeah. The rental car.
Yeah.
Okay.
In retrospect, if you can get away without doing the rental car, it's better because it keeps the fluidity of the trip better.
You have to, I think it's always better to sort of plan a smaller trip. Like we just definitely way overestimated how far we could ride and ended up having to make up a lot of time because we were like in Portugal and we're like, we're kind of stuck in Portugal. We want to make sure we have enough time in France. And so we decided to get a rental car to sort of get out of Portugal. And I think it's good to sort of underestimate how far you're going to ride every day so that you don't spread yourself too thin and you have time to spend in the areas you're going through and stuff. And you don't have to do something like that to kind of catch up.
We'll come right back to that. Let's take a moment now to thank our wonderful show sponsors. Osprey is the market leader in technical outdoor, travel, and everyday packs. And I've personally used Osprey packs since 2015. My favorites are the Fairview Trek 50 for multi-day hikes, the Cirrus 24 for day hikes, the Transporter Rolling Duffel 60, which is my trusty check luggage for faraway adventures, and of course, the countless packing cubes I use to organize everything that goes in them. We are proud to support each other on the podcast and beyond. We love getting outside, and we want to see more people outdoors. So find out more and join us at osprey.com.
We found that the one thing you don't want to do is be stuck at night, like kind of cycling around. You're tired. Maybe it was a long day on the bike. A lot of times that's what you do all day is just kind of ride your bike. And so it's better to, try to call it early and enjoy the evening, enjoy where you're at instead of pushing it, set up camp and go into town and look around and see the sights instead of just riding your bike. I mean, that's a big part of it, but get that out of the way early if you can.
Right. That makes perfect sense though. I mean, you don't want to miss out on that kind of thing when you're over there for that reason. So
we wanted to go have dinner like in town and like go try the local wine and like see what the locals are doing and like check out the whatever sites are in the town. So, if we got to our camp by like 2:00 and we could set up and shower and kind of go wander around, that was awesome. Sometimes we went to the beach when we were in Portugal and it just really allows you to see more than, I mean, you see so much on the bike. It's awesome. So
it's crazy how much you see. That's the best part about it. It's a really nice speed to travel at. I mean,
agree.
It's fast, but it's not too fast, and you're pretty much in tune with where you're at. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So did you guys have any trouble getting your stuff overseas? Like, what did that look like for your bikes?
Yeah, so we put them in boxes, like cardboard bike boxes, essentially. And our plan,
which you get for free, just go
to your local bike shop.
Yeah, just go to the bike shop and say you want an old cardboard box, and they give it to you.
Yeah, you just gotta make sure you get one that's large enough to actually fit your bike. And so we essentially disassembled them completely and then packed. I had a little super compressible, like Patagonia backpack that we took as our carry-on with some essentials, and then we packed everything else that we were going to have for the whole trip in our bike boxes and just had those as our one luggage item for the airlines. And so yeah, you pretty much have to disassemble them mostly and then reassemble them at the airport, which we did in Malaga. So we could ride directly from the airport, so it takes a little bit of time. So that's the other thing to think about when you're buying your tickets is you don't want to get in at like midnight and then have to put your bike together for 2 hours and find a place to stay. So
that might be one of the better. I mean, we put our bikes together, in a corner of the airport, but you might want to get there and just get a cheap hotel room or a hostel or someplace where you can relax and put your bike together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So did you pay extra for the bike?
Oh, yeah.
That was probably the most expensive thing we had to pay for.
Most expensive and the most stressful.
Yeah.
No. What was it?
It was
we paid $300, or let's see. We paid $150 per bike on the way there, and I think
$200.
Yeah, $200 on the way back.
Yeah, so that was like something we thought we had it for free.
Yeah.
And
we had no other check bags, and we had 2 free check bags with our tickets. But they wouldn't, the bike, even though it was like less than our total for the 2 check bags, they still charged just because of dimensions. So if there's any way you can like separate into 2 sort of boxes that are within the normal dimensions, like you would save that money. You would have to totally disassemble your bike more than we did.
And another option, like the first time I went over there, I kind of started thinking, like, depending on how hardcore you want to go, or not hardcore, but like depending on how many miles you want to ride or how long you want to go for, there's no reason you can't go over there almost and like just go to a big box store, like what are they called? What was a place called?
Decathlon.
Decathlon or whatever those places, those big, big fives of Europe are called. And just buy a bike, buy all the stuff, spend 2 days there and put yourself together. And just go, and then do something with your bike when you're done. Give it to somebody or do something, because that might even be cheaper and easier. But if you really want to build a fast, efficient, quality bike, it's going to be cheaper to ship.
Yeah, you're going to have to allow time to find the bike. You're going to buy one over there and get it tuned up to like work for you. And so that's the advantage of bringing it. It's already all set up. Everything works. You can put it together there. All your stuff's going to fit in your bags. You're kind of ready to hit the road when you get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And everything's dialed, you know everything works.
Yeah. Right, which maybe it would be better just to budget for that. Just to budget for the extra money.
Yeah, we totally missed that, which was it was more like a surprise for us. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for that.
That's such a bummer though. Yeah, because that's kind of a big one. So.
Yeah.
So then when it comes to the trip itself, what were like your favorite parts about it, or what were your least favorite parts?
Oh man, there's so many.
Oh man, yeah. I'll let Tenille say the least.
No.
I'll let Tenille say the least favorite part.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. You go first with the best parts, though.
Okay, I'll go first. The best parts were, for me, probably doing it with somebody else and doing it with somebody else I cared about. Because the first time I went, I was by myself, and which is really fun. But doing it with somebody else, you learn about the person. I mean, that's the one thing about it is you're out there. I mean, you're on the road cruising along, and you need to deal with stuff together. If that's a flat tire or
a rim exploding,
a rim exploding, like at the top of the Alps on a closed road. That's another thing. So you just deal with everything together. So that was like one of the best things was just the experience. I mean, the whole experience is good, but best parts were probably the mountains. I think we both enjoyed the mountains the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, southern Spain was beautiful. It's kind of like rolling hills.
Everything, Basque country, the food, the people, the wine. Areas that we like the best, I would say, for me, my favorite area. Wow, it's tough. I would say the Pyrenees, even though they were tough for us.
Yeah.
Because we had bad weather, but that area for me was just memorable for some reason.
Yeah, the Pyrenees for me are like a recurring nightmare.
Oh no!
It's not really that bad, but we got into some bad snow. We tried to do this col called Col d'Abasquet, which is one of the Tour de France climbs, and it's beautiful. And there was a lot of snow on top, which we sort of knew we might get some rain in the Pyrenees, but then when we were climbing, it was actually snowing on us.
And we thought we were going to go over this thing and then maybe hike our bikes, because we knew the road was closed. We thought we got the top, we would be able to hike our bikes through the snow
and just cruise down.
And kind of get down the next side to the next valley or whatever. But we carry all of our stuff to the top. It's just pouring rain. We're frozen by the time we get up there. It's like almost snow rain.
Yeah.
And the elevation.
It was actually snowing. Not
it was snowing at the top. And then so we get up to the ski resort. The ski resort shut down like a week before or something.
Yeah.
And we're just so like teeny. There's
not even
freezing.
A coffee shop open.
There's nothing.
No.
Just an espresso to get me to the top.
So we sneak into like this little shelter deal and. We made some soup.
Hot soup.
Yeah, the sun came out for maybe like 15 minutes, and so we took our stuff and dried it out front.
Oh, it felt so good.
Out in front of we have this little shelter, and then we pedaled to the top, and I think the top was 1709.
Yeah.
1,709 meters, and
there was a lot of snow up there still.
So we got to the top, and then we were frozen, so we rode our bikes down, and Tenille was frozen, so she hates it.
Yeah.
It was
unbelievably, like you're soaking wet, and then like you think that the going up part is going to be the worst, but actually it turns out that's a lot better because you're working and you're keeping yourself warm. But on the downhill, you're just getting pelted with snow in your face and you're soaking wet and wind on you. And
we had all our gear, so we had fully loaded bikes. And
you got to be careful because it's a little bit slippery. And luckily there's really no traffic, fortunately.
There's a few cars, yeah.
So,
but it was beautiful, though. I mean, honestly,
it was beautiful.
Tell me that's not when your rim exploded.
That wasn't, actually.
Oh, good. Because that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The rim exploding was funny, actually. That happened in the Alps. And we did the famous Tour de France climb, the Alpe d'Huez. And there's actually another col called Col des Serines, which is up above that. And we decided we wanted to go up Alpe d'Huez, then up to this col and down the other side. And it was kind of getting towards the end of our trip. And we get up to the top of the col, and we're having our lunch up there, just kind of hanging out. And Adam says... he's like, we've been so lucky this whole trip. We really haven't had any mechanicals, which was true. Like,
Adam.
we had any problems with our bikes. Yeah.
They've been perfect. Our bikes had
they've done amazing.
Tightened some bolts, and that was it.
Yeah, they've really done so well. And we go down maybe 50 yards, and I hear what sounds like a shotgun.
Yeah, and then before that, we're about to pedal up. I'm feeling my rim, my inside of my rim, and I'm like, or like where the brake hits it, the braking surface, and I'm like, this thing is really getting worn through. It's getting all concaved, and she's like, yeah, that feels weird. And then so back to the story. So this is before we start climbing. We get to the very top and we're coming down this closed pass.
So yeah, it's part of this part is part of the Tour de France also, but it's like an extra sketchy part. It's a very narrow road with a big cliff on the one side with no railing.
I think they've only done it once, and people complained because it's so gnarly because there's just like the road's covered in like debris and
they clear it, but this is early spring, so there's all these rock slides that are still in the road from the wintertime.
And these are huge rocks, like boulders the size of an ice chest in the road.
So we're kind of weaving our way through this, and he's a little bit ahead of me, and it's a beautiful view though from there. So we're just kind of going slow and enjoying the view, and he gets up a little bit ahead of me, and I hear what sounds like a shotgun go off, and I was like, oh, I thought he like blew a tire, or I thought that maybe there was actually somebody shooting down there. And I come up close, we stop and look at his rim, and the whole sidewall of his rim had blown out, like just peeled away.
Oh no!
Yeah. So
the whole metal piece, because the brake pad, I think with all like the debris and stuff from riding in the snow and the heat and everything just wore through the metal. So like a whole chunk of my rim at the very top of this mountain blows out.
I mean, we're like,
you can't fix it. Like I couldn't put a tube in. I was thinking about trying to fill my tire with sticks and tape.
Oh no.
We didn't have enough tape and like.
And And we didn't have our normal set of gear with us because we were going back to that same campsite that night. So we actually had a very light load, which was nice. But it was just funny because we were, 15 feet off the top of this col and wheelless essentially. So Adam had to ride the whole way down on his rim.
So I rode down into this town. It was Sunday, so like nothing was open. So I ride down with just my tire around my rim, trying to protect my rim as best I could. And like after about 2 minutes, I knew that wouldn't work.
Oh my gosh.
And then so we ride down. I find a mechanic in town. I say, "Hey buddy, I knock on the door. Everything's closed." And somebody opens the door because I saw a car out front. Gives me some wire cutters. I cut the bead on the tire. And then still have to descend down this mountain with like kind of crazy exposure at times, like this huge canyon on one side with these little like concrete blocks kind of acting as the barrier. Like,
geez, that probably makes you feel real safe.
on a metal rim. It was sketchy.
Oh my God.
So long story short is that we pedaled that with 30,
it was like 30K, I think, on
30 kilometers on my rim back to this town. And then luckily we were just, the town was the biggest biking town we ever went through because of the base of, what was it?
it was
Le Bourg des Seines.
Mm-hmm.
And,
it was crazy. But that was really our only major mechanical on the whole
Yeah.
We had a couple flat tires after that. But
I know, and honestly, we only had maybe 3 flat tires total, and they were all at the end of the trip. It was funny. I got one of mine at dinner that night. We rode our bikes into town and had dinner, and my tire was flat when I came out, and that was like the first flat of the trip besides his rim. So it was really, we were pretty mechanical free, which was quite lucky. I mean, there was so many amazing parts of the trip. Like when we got into France, we went to Avignon, which was like a beautiful town. We hadn't really expected to go into the Rhone Valley, but we ended up riding north through the Rhone Valley and encountered the infamous Mistral wind, which is this amazingly impressive gale force wind that will essentially stop you from pedaling. And we spent a couple days in a town just kind of holed up in our tent, wondering if the trees were going to fall down on top of us. It was crazy. We tried to take videos of it to show our family, but they really don't show you how crazy strong the winds are. So, but yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we could go on forever.
Sorry, we keep getting sidetracked. It's so easy to just talk about
the Vino Verde.
Oh yeah.
The duck in France. It was just. I
brought a fishing pole with me the whole time.
You did?
Yeah, and I caught a little trout in a river in like a high alpine, this little town from right below the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty fun. Caught a fish. Beautiful brown trout.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So lots of good wine, but
there were so many good parts of the trip. We said one of the days in Spain when it was raining, actually, we got to this campsite, and because it's early spring, not a lot of the campsites are open. They kind of only open for the summer season when all the tourists come from other parts of Europe and come with their caravans. Caravanning in Europe is like a big thing. Everybody's got their little motorhome.
Yeah.
And so we essentially camped under this awning of a shed at this campsite that wasn't open. Nobody was there yet. And then we found them in the morning, and it's raining, of course, still. So we take off on our bikes from the campsite. We're soaked from the night before, just kind of like, oh man, here we go again. So we go out in the rain and we're pedaling, and the guy from the campsite suddenly comes speeding up behind us. And of course, he speaks Spanish only, and he's waving his arm saying, follow me, and just kind of goes slow in front of us. And we're like, what's going on? We're just kind of cruising behind him. We come around this corner, and there's a gushing river that the road goes through that we would have had to have traversed ourselves with our bike and all of our stuff. And so he let us throw our bikes in the back of his truck and gave us a ride across the river. It was so nice.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just fun stuff.
Meeting the people and actually getting to talk to people is
and the people in all of Spain and all of Portugal were so friendly. Easiest. That's the one nice thing about traveling in Europe. For the most part, you'll be safe. I mean, a lot of people go by themselves. So if you want to go by yourself, it's a good place to learn how to ride your bike in a different country or bike touring in general. So
it's nice. And every once in a while you meet somebody who speaks English, especially in Portugal. Actually, a lot of people in Portugal do not speak English. And we sort of speak a little bit of Spanish and felt like we were going to be okay going into Portugal because it's similar, but turns out it's actually not similar at all. Written or spoken. We couldn't understand what anyone said. No one understood any of our Spanish. And so we didn't talk to very many people in Portugal.
Not any, but not the same majority.
Yeah. And so we, on one of our favorite towns, which is Viana do Castelo on the very northern coast of Portugal, we finally ran into a guy. We were just walking along this river at the inlet where it came in from the ocean at this town, and happened to run into a guy and I think we were just asking him directions for a restaurant or a restaurant recommendation, and he spoke really good English. And so we spent like 15 minutes talking to him, and he just told us the whole history of this town, and like the bridge that was there was built by Eiffel, the same, architect that designed the Eiffel Tower, and all the history, like the eels that are in the river, the lamprey. So we ended up having lamprey pie for dinner, and it was just like, you can spend 15 minutes with somebody and just learn such a tremendous amount about like their culture and like the things that are really worth checking out while you're there. So that was cool.
Yeah, definitely a highlight, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so fun. So are there any like specific resources, whether like guidebooks or actual, I guess, equipment that would be helpful for other people planning a trip like this, or like must-haves if you're biking? I mean, I know we kind of touched on a lot of different gear and stuff, but does anything stand out to you like that?
Well, I guess, finding your way around is a huge part of
good maps.
Yeah, good maps is like, that helps so much.
Okay.
And you can find them over there if you find the right towns. Usually big towns have a big bookstore and you get the right maps, but
you have to buy the super highly like zoomed in ones that show all the backcountry roads.
I can't remember what our scale is. It's like
1 to 200 or something, or 200,000, and it's like, essentially the highest detail map you can buy for an area, because the best part of bike touring is that you can take all these little back roads,
small
and miss
roads,
traffic,
and you see the real part of the country, I guess.
Right.
So you need to have those super detailed maps to really be able to navigate through that.
So I mean, as far as bringing stuff, you can either bring really good maps or some type of electronic device. Nice thing about the maps is it won't break. And I like maps. I think that's fun. It's that's what you do at night. You sit in your tent and you look at the map and, oh, look, we can go up this road and maybe take a right here, and this looks nice. And then if you have a topo map, you kind of look at, topo.
When you get into the mountains, that's nice for sure to have a topo. So I actually borrowed a solar charger from a friend of ours who had done a bike tour across the U.S.
That was helpful.
And that turned out to be really useful because, of course, we had our cell phones that we use as my camera, and it was my cell phone, and our way of communicating with our family, getting on the internet to check things if we wanted to, post photos.
And that's another good point. Must-have things. Not a must-have, but if you have the room, bring a nice camera. I brought my really nice,
SLR,
SLR type digital camera, which was nice.
Yeah, it's nice to have something.
Kind of a pain to get out, but
you'll never regret taking those beautiful pictures or stopping in a place for an extra 5 minutes. So
exactly.
Yep.
That was cool.
Yeah, but the solar charger was nice just because, if we wanted to, we had like a little mini speaker too. So when we were on super quiet backcountry roads, sometimes we would just bust the music out and listen
she would
to
start dancing.
Yeah, So
nice.
So that was having our little solar charger was nice because it would charge my speaker real fast and charge our cell phones if we weren't at a campsite that had electricity. A lot of the campsites have electricity, but sometimes they'll make you pay for it, which we of course would never do. So having our solar charger was nice. It worked really well actually, and would charge an iPhone and we had a tiny battery pack that we brought with us too. So I'd either charge the battery pack or the phones directly, and so that was actually really nice to have.
Yeah, and if for the person wanting to go to, I mean, depending on what you're going to do, if you don't get cold easy, I always brought a pair of tights and a pair of leggings, and that was enough coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If I'm super cold, I wear a pair of shorts. You bring a pair of board shorts or something, or a pair of shorts to walk around in. I think I brought one pair of casual shorts and one pair of board shorts.
Mm-hmm. And
just one pair of casual shorts.
That's like,
I brought 2 pairs of shorts.
Swimming trunks, don't.
Yeah, I brought swim trunks and gotta bring the trunks.
Yep.
And
definitely.
And so that's what I wore. I brought 2 pairs of tights, 1 pair of leggings, 2 pairs of shorts, a nice kind of cashmere sweater, and a pair of jeans and one cotton t-shirt. It's nice to bring something cotton to change into, you know.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
bring a beanie. But for me, I never needed like long tights. Like if you're thinking about, because that was my first question when I went my first time. I asked a buddy that'd been before, and he's like, "Just bring leggings, and they can, you know, they're
stuff that you can layer is the most.
Yeah, they're small. And,
yeah, like I had this jacket that I love. That's a road cycling jacket that Cannondale makes, and essentially it zips, the sleeves zip off, so you can just wear it as a vest, and the vest is like super well ventilated. And so I use that a lot because you kind of go from climbing to descending, and it was nice to easily take the arms on and off if I just wanted a little bit of extra windbreak on the downhill. It's super easy to wear. So that jacket was awesome. I wore it all the time when we were riding. And so, yeah, I don't know. The solar charge is good.
Yeah. You know, I might just put some links to a bunch of these things because I feel like this is some really good resources. Like all the things that you've mentioned for packing, you've pretty much outlined a packing list for this type of trip, which is awesome because I know that that's a challenge for so many people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was so fun for us to like go through and research and find the lightest, you know, whatever we were looking for, most compact. So
yeah,
that was fun for us. For
awesome.
Sure.
So yeah, so you guys have already done the research, so we can just kind of put some links on the show notes page and let everybody just have at it. So
sounds good.
That's cool. All right. So one last question for you guys. What advice would you give to other people thinking about doing a bike tour through Europe? I mean, you've already given a lot, but like, I'm talking more like the, how did it impact your life kind of thing?
Well, first of all, as Adam mentioned earlier, you have to pick somebody you actually really like to go with, and it's going to be a good travel buddy for you because, you know, especially it depends on sort of your travel experience. If you've been a lot of places, I think overseas before and sort of know how to function in a place where you don't speak the language and don't really know how to get around and cultures are different, you kind of like have to be comfortable with that and be able to roll with the punches, and stuff is pretty much never going to go how you plan it. And you know, you're going to change your course and things are going to happen that push you in a different direction all the time. And so you just have to be able to go with somebody that's flexible and can kind of handle all that stuff. And you have to be the same way too, and just sort of like go into it open-minded and know that that's like part of the adventure of it.
Right.
That's the most important thing probably.
I mean, that is probably the biggest thing is that
who you go with makes the trip.
I mean, everybody's been traveling at some point, if it's with family or whatever that variances of, you know, adventure to just going someplace easy, but it's an adventure and you have to just
roll with
no
it.
matter what, it's going to be good.
Yeah, that is the point. Is like we kind of decided that, you know, we didn't ride as far as we wanted to this day, or we didn't do that, but like whatever you do is going to be awesome. And I think if, you know, another good piece of advice I would think is that when you're planning your trip again, like pick a small area to cover and just take your time seeing it, because you're not going to want to ride fast every day, and you're not going to be able to if you're climbing, depending on if you're in a really mountainous region or not. And you want to be able to stop and have lunch and check out a town that you're going through, and you want to get to your camp early so that you can see where you're staying. And, you know, so that was like probably the one thing that we kept telling ourselves when we got back. We're like, next time we're just going to pick a little bit of a smaller area and really take our time.
Either that or spend more time, have a longer trip and go slower.
Yeah. And are you guys planning that next trip yet?
Well, we sort of have vacation scheduled for June, but we haven't decided what to do with it.
Yeah, we don't know. It's not that long of a vacation.
It's only 2 weeks, unfortunately.
You can do a lot in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
you can. That is true. 2 weeks, you have more funds to hopefully use over those 2 weeks, so you can, you know. Which I don't like. I like the non-planning side.
Yeah, that's the one thing we didn't want, is we didn't want to like dictate our route. We wanted to know we were gonna start here and end here, and then what came in between. We wanted to kind of pick as we went. So we like that. It
was awesome. It was good. It was a good trip.
It sounds like it was so much fun and so beautiful. I think just looking through your pictures, it makes me want to do that. And I mean, I don't ride my bike like you do. I have like a really heavy beach cruiser, and Bozeman's pretty flat. So
But you don't need much. You need something that, rolls good. I mean, you need more than a beach cruiser, but you don't really need much. You just need a tuned up bike that can hold racks. I mean, even if it's just back bags, you can just, honestly, you don't really need much. I mean, I've come across a lot. When you're on the road, you'll meet other people touring and you see what they use. And you see all kinds of things out there. You're like, wow, this person has been out here for this long. And
it's funny. You were asking us about gear, and the one thing I just thought of was that, like, we ran into, right when we came into Portugal, the first night that we spent in Portugal, we ran into the Frenchman Gilles, who lives in France, and he was on a bike tour, and he was the first bike tour that we'd seen besides ourselves, and he gave us this tarp, I guess you would call it.
Super thin plastic tarp.
It's like a silver lightweight. It's can be used as like a heat blanket or something like that. And we actually used it just so we could have something to sit on, like under our tent, or like to put under the vestibules in our tent and to sit on if we just were like wanted to have something to cook dinner on out in the open. And
it's just nice.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like the best present ever.
It's like super thin plastic. Bring one of those.
So lightweight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
That's a good point.
I don't know.
So you learn a lot when you're on the trip from the people you meet, essentially.
And that's true everywhere, for every kind of trip.
That is true, for sure.
Gosh, thank you guys so much. This has been super fun. Just like going through your trip and
it's crazy. It's fun to think about and talk about.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are really going to benefit from this, because I love how much you got into detail and stuff. Is super helpful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and definitely let me know when you decide to do this again, because I'm sure you'll have more to share. So
definitely.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you later. Okay.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks,
all right. Thanks. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I just went on an adventure with them. And that's why I liked that interview so much. They just kind of took me away with their stories and everything. So I hope that you had fun with that as well. And like we said, there are some links on the show notes page, which you can find at thebudgetmindedtraveler.com/23. And Tenille also mentioned that she may be creating a gear list for us. So if she gets that done, we will have that on the show notes page as well. And that would actually be a downloadable document. But for now, there are some notes, some things to remember, and some itemized things for the packing list. So go ahead and check that out, thebudgetmindedtraveler.com/23. And you can also keep the conversation going there. If you have any questions or comments, there is a comment section there. Especially if you have done this before, please feel free to comment and share with us anything that you have to add, or if you plan on doing a trip like this, we would love to hear about it. So keep that in mind. And that's it for today. So thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next time.